In this video I'm going to explain how I made a sector plate, a sector table for Trainz Rail Sim using Gmax, and this is the item here. It looks like a conventional point, but it's not exactly the case. This is Birmingham Snow Hill Station, Great Western Railway Snow Hill Station, and you can see here there are two tracks that come together here, but actually there's a third one. This is a fan of 3 tracks. A third one hidden underneath the platform. I'll just advance this over, you'll see just what I mean. Here we are. So what this was designed to do was to release the engine at the end of a train, and indeed to allow for slightly longer trains than the two of the bay platforms at Birmingham Snow Hill. And this is with the sector plate, sector table in movement. This was built by Ransom and Rapier of Ipswich, who also provided the 65-foot turntable at Birmingham Snow Hill. And you can see here that there's a raised bit underneath the platforms, and the plate actually, the table actually goes under the platform, and a locomotive would come along, run onto the table, it would then turn, and it could be released down this road here. So here I had a lot of problems with this, and I must thank GM Trainz, who really helped me out and sorted out the whole thing for me. And so let's have a look in Gmax. So this is the moving section of the table. Let's just make it a bit bigger. And it's in a sense it's part of a turntable. It's a segment, a sector, a slice out of a turntable. And because of that, there was a remarkable discovery suggested by GM, and I must admit, I didn't quite believe him. I thought he was making a joke, but in actual fact it was absolutely correct, and was the eventual solution to the problem I was having. And the problem I was having was this was loading into Trainz, but it wasn't operating, it wasn't functioning. And if I just go into the config for this, and you'll see here, so it hasn't actually been dealt with by Content Manager Plus, so it's just as it's typed in. And you can see here that instead of using an angle command in the config, as you would with a normal turntable to give you 0 degrees, 60 degrees, 90 degrees, 180 as the turntable rotates around, you've got keyframes here, looping, and a frame rate. I've turned snap mode off, and I've not included a dig hole, because all this is going to sit on top of the terrain, which means you can put it anywhere in a layout. But apart from those elements there, all the rest is pretty much conventional. You've got in the mesh table you've got the pit, and you've got what Oren N3V calls the spinner, i.e. the platform. And here we have the different tracks which I've attached to it, and a brief description of what it was doing. So that's the config. Let's have a look at the Gmax file in a bit more detail, because if you plan on making one of these, you definitely need to pick up the tips which I discovered, or rather GM really got me going to sort it out. So it's like a turntable platform, except that it has 3 tracks on it operating in a fan, and also it's the center of it, or it's centered down here at the 000 point, and not in the middle of the platform, which would normally be down at 000. So this is just going to move a small amount in one direction, and then it's going to move back, and that's all that we want it to do, so that a loco can come onto here, the middle road, it'll be moved 6.5 degrees, and then it can run off onto the adjoining platform, and you'll see that in a minute when I show it to you in Trainz. So what about this? Well, it's fairly straightforward as far as the hierarchy is concerned, and here is the hierarchy box. So BR main is here, and it is at 000. 3 zeros, that's right, XYZ, and it is static, it's not animated. And inside it and linked to it is BR platform. Now that is the one, that's the dummy that we're going to animate. And then we have the two track attachment points. Now these have a very special nomenclature, naming convention. If I just pick on, I'll just cancel that a moment. If I just pick on one, now we want the attachment point, please. And you'll see over here on the left that it's using AR platform, not BR, so that links it to the BR platform dummy, and then a slice, top right, bottom left, and then the usual A track naught A, and then same up here, A track naught B. But that's really important because that in effect ties it to the dummy BR platform. Okay, so just looking at the spread there, you can see that there's a number of items, which these are the meshes that make up the platform itself. And if I was to select all of those, you'll see all the platform lights up, and I'll zoom in a minute just to show you that. And they're all linked to BR platform along with the attachment points. So the idea is when they move, it all moves together. So let's have a look at that. So I set the frame, the length of the animation to 200. 0 to 200 is actually 201. So let's set it going. Now it doesn't move very much, but what it does do is really crucial. So here we are. Essentially what's happening is this road is moving so that it will, I'll stop it, I'll take it over to 200. There we are. And this side road, these two side roads are dummies. I'm not attempting to get those working with a locomotive, and I've actually textured this differently in Trainz so as to indicate that. And if we have a look, you'll see it's a lighter grey to these sort of dull grey sides. Let's just take that back. These essentially are just there for the effect. In the original transfer table they were there so that if you had this connected up to your running line, then the other running line was protected, the other platform line was protected by this, so that you couldn't actually, it didn't just come to a sudden end. You'll also see that there is this little item here. Let's have a look down in the perspective view and we'll get a better view of it. Let's just enlarge that. Okay, so the criteria, the hierarchy is really crucial. And what I've got here is an animated lever, a lever that was on the side of on the platform edge, and I've more or less guessed where it would be when you put a piece of platform in that's going to line up with this center road here. Okay, so that is hidden away under the platform, and the lever was actually used to initiate the movement. I wasn't able to do something which was just a quick lever movement and then a quick back. That's a bit beyond me as far as the animation is concerned, so I've just done a gentle animation. So if we run the animation again, let's have a look, and you'll see that there we are, there's that, in fact, that lever and the linking lever at the bottom there both move, and these were actually connected to the signal box, and it could only be pulled off once the signalman had released the control, so that somebody on the platform could then move the transfer table over. So that's the platform, and as you can see, it's part of a turntable. Normal turntable, circular turntable, you'd have a long platform, equal amounts across the 0, 0, 0 origin point. So let's have a look at what else is here making up the sector plate. Well, first of all, you'll see very obviously there is a mesh which is actually the radius of the mesh is the distance from the 0, 0, 0 point to the edge of the sector table, and I'll come back to that in a moment. And I've actually got that all grouped together with these are the two exit roads here, and they're just as usual. So if we have a look here, group 1, select, and let's ungroup it, and here we are. You'll see there's the standard out track for a turntable, 2 of them, and also somewhere down here, yeah, there we are, there's the meshes that make up the little bit of running line there, and this is the cylinder, this great big round one here. And as I say, that cylinder, the diameter of that cylinder is equal to the distance from the 0, 0 origin point to the right to the edge of the turntable. Now, when I first exported this into Trainz, I could not get it to work, and GM very kindly went through it in extraordinary detail, picking about everything, sending me a mock-up of his own, which did work fine, but mine didn't. And one of his remarks was, maybe what we need for yours is something which depicts the pit at the full diameter to fool Trainz into believing this is a turntable. And to be honest, I thought he was joking, because I couldn't imagine that the Trainz sim, if it's told this is a turntable, doesn't react as if it was a turntable, simply because there wasn't a circular mesh there. And that is a very crude, as you can see, it's below ground, a very crude piece of cylinder just with a simple bit of texture on it. But that was the answer. So if you ever want to make a sector table, you must include a hidden or invisible circular piece of mesh in order for Trainz to believe it is actually a turntable. I find that absolutely extraordinary. I really do, because surely the mesh doesn't make any difference to the type of model that you're making. But there you go, that's the way it is, so that's the way we did it, or that's the way I did it, and here it is. So first of all, this is in Surveyor, and let me just go to wireframe view, and there's that great big circle. But it doesn't matter, because we're right down, it's below the ground level. You can see the grid lines actually over the top of it, and you can see that this is in place. So what I've tried to do here is indicate where platforms would be, and you've got the running line, the platform line, and then you've got both of those lines would have come towards each other and connected up with the sector table. Now, as I said, this one here on the left and this one on the right are dummies only, purely for their decorative effect. This is the only active line, and that's the one that you need to use. And over here you can see that little lever, which was just, you can't see it very well. If I take it down, you can see it sticking up above the platform there. It's quite grey, and when I there we are. And the idea of this, as I say, this goes into at the end of two bay platforms, so the train comes right in, the locomotive is unhitched, it comes forward onto the transfer table, the sector table, the lever is then pulled, and this swings over to the right, and the locomotive then runs back around its train, so it releases the locomotive. So it saves the length of two turnouts, which would be greater than the length of this sector table. And all I've added here is a short length of track with the buffers on the end, but actually I think it was the buffers were virtually there on the original. And you can see here the two command arrows for moving it, and they are actually lined up on the 0, 0, 0 point, which is about here, a little bit along from the edge of the mesh. Okay, but all contained in that sub ground level round mesh. So let's have a look at it in Driver. So we'll just do the usual, bring it into Driver. There we go, and I'll just do free roaming view, because I just want to show you how it works, how that animation works. First of all, we'll just have a look at the table itself, and there it is moving from one of those two tracks to the other, and this track moves in to, as it were, to help to make that track safe, and these bits are meant to move underneath the platform. And I just used an ordinary platform spline there. I suppose ideally I should have a special bit of platform spline which is actually raised up so this can go run underneath it, but well, everybody uses different platforms, so I thought this was good enough. What you'll also notice there, I hope, is the little lever. Let's just come around here so you can see it a little bit clearer. There it is. So there'll be a member of staff at the platform edge ready to pull that lever to move the sector table. Now, because it's set to move only 0 to 0 degrees, sorry, to keyframe 0 or keyframe 200, and between keyframe 0 and keyframe 200 the animation moves 6.5 degrees. So actually when this loads into Trainz, it's set at 0 degrees, and really to get it centered, the center line ideally is there. You need to rotate it 3. I don't think you can do it 3.25 degrees, but 3 degrees is pretty close. So there it is coming back, and you can see this little lever just being pulled over, and that just brings it back, and that's as much as I'm going to worry about as far as the controls were concerned. But to be honest, when I finally got this going after so much effort by GM and I must admit myself, I just spent a happy 10 minutes just flicking it backwards and forwards. So there we are. That is how to make a sector table for Trainz using Gmax. And now that I've got this keyframes animation pretty much clear in my head, well, who knows what might be produced in the future. But I'm certainly going to be releasing this. This is, as I say, a sector table that was used at Birmingham Snow Hill, and I've already made a turntable, the Ransom and Rapier 65-foot turntable for Snow Hill, and I'll be releasing that with this sector table once Bob has checked it over. So there we are. I hope that's of interest. For any of you budding sector table creators, believe me, you definitely need to know this information, and you definitely need to have that nice big circular mesh buried under the level of the terrain so as to make your sector table work. Otherwise you spend days, and I spent days, clicking away at red arrows, and they were never turning green, and it's just stayed still. It's lovely, isn't it? So there we are. Now I've kept it very simple as far as the textures are concerned. I just wanted to make it so that it would be adequate for the job without being a heavy hit on the memory. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, something a bit different, and if you have any questions or comments, or you want any further explanation about how I did this, and I must say I owe GM a massive amount of gratitude, a massive thanks for sorting me out, and I would thoroughly recommend, if you've ever sort of thought about using transfer tables or sector tables and you want to have a go at making one, give it a go, because once you get it working, the satisfaction you derive from it is just incredible. And I'm just going to click it again. I cannot see it move too many times. Poetry in motion. There we are. This it's twitching a bit where I just connected up these odd bits of tracks, so you'd have to sort that out a bit because that's actually on at a skew, slight skew. Okay, so that's the end of this video. I hope you've enjoyed it, and as I say, if you want to have any comments or questions about it, then just let me know. So there we are, sector table for Birmingham Snow Hill Station, GWR Snow Hill Station, for Trainz Rail Sim, created in Gmax.